Oh my goodness. You can't throw a stone without hitting an artist in Corrales. I love the tour, the Corrales Art Studio Tour, because it's a great opportunity for the public to connect with the artists.
This is my first year doing the studio tour in Corrales. I've been a patron of it for as long as I've been growing up. My mom and I would come to the garden tour, and we would do the studio tour just about every year. There's nothing to not like about Corrales.
Art is a frame of mind, and if you can relax and let that energy come out, and you're an artist, no matter what your medium is, you're going to create something that's really cool. And people feel that when they come to Corrales.
It's a great place to be an artist. There is so much support.
Corrales has a long and deep art and cultural history. The San Ysidro Church was built in 1868. These historic facilities still today host a hub of cultural and artistic activity.
I think that's part of what drives me is a need to connect with others. And the way I do it is through my art. I've heard before a phrase that you can't take the art out of the artist or the artist out of the art. And I think back to when I was a little girl and my Aunt Vera, who I love dearly, we were taking a walk and I did something not nice. I don't know what it was. And she scolded me and said, "You are a very bold young lady." And I said, "Aunt Vera, what does bold mean?" And she explained, and I remember saying, "Yes, I am bold." And I think that comes through in my artwork. I look at colors and I exaggerate them a little bit. Even though my colors aren't realistic, there is red in a green tree. There's blue in a green tree. Not as much as I put in it. So I tend to exaggerate, and I'm bold, and I'm loud.
Basically, my house is my studio. I have my studio in the middle of the living room, and then if the people have access to my house, they have access not just my studio, if not my life. It's open your space and open a little bit of you to other people. When I start to make pieces on the wall, I discovered that the wall was part of my piece, not just the place where I hang the piece. In composition even is part, and then that wall represents our boundaries. Cross the boundaries, try to be free, try to express ourselves. One principal border for me is the cultural transition from my country to this country. To discover that each human is different universe, and we need to cross our fears and try to express ourselves and discover that the other people think maybe similar, but it's different in other ways. It's important to try to be transparent or try to cross that wall, emotional or cultural wall, for really know each other.
I love the studio tour because there's that opportunity for the direct relationship with people that come in curious to see how you work, where you work, and what you have. This is the art of everyday life. Gratification for me comes from handing the bread bowl to, say, I can think of specific people, mothers that have bought things for their daughters. And when you go to a museum somewhere in the world, oftentimes you're looking at pottery. And I like to think that at least some of my pieces will make it 100 years, and that'll be, oh, my great-grandmother made, this recipe of bread in this bowl. It's so, sacred thing. These objects that get passed down from one generation to the next often are made from clay. I like to work in series, and the one that is exactly like the drawing and the vision is usually not my favorite piece. It's the one that went off from that. You know, the inspiration comes from working.
For me, it's about this mystery that happens when simplifying the landscape, that it kind of allows you to wander within it. I like capturing landscape because I get to experience it again, in a way. It's, you know, when you're in the studio making, you kind of remove yourself from that, so it's amazing to have a piece and be able to take that landscape with you, especially in a more non-representational way for me. This series particularly is, I've noticed I make a piece and there is no scrap to making these. There is a piece that can be utilized again that is a different type of landscape. They almost seem to have been generating themselves. For me, it's therapy. I think there's not enough to build for me. I never want to stop building. And I love what happens when something new comes along from working with your hands. It brings me a great deal of satisfaction. That's why it's important for me to be an artist.
The Keralis Art and Studio Tour is a great venue for artists. It brings everybody together in an exceptionally well-organized event, an advertised event. It brings together our best artists. I mean, the top-notch people who really produce in Keralis. And for 2 days, you know, art patrons get to come to Keralis and experience Keralis and go from venue to venue and see artists in their space, right? And they get to see what comes from that artist in that space. And it's just so cool because, you know, the weather's really great usually and everyone has a great time, the patrons and the artists.